Do you have a Sharp TV, smart TV that does not turn on, meaning that the power is there, but you get a black screen? Today I'm going to show you how to diagnose that and some potential ways to fix it. So the first thing you can do is unplug it, let it sit for a bit, turn it back, and then plug it back in and try it. Next thing you can do is hold the power button for about 30 seconds and then try it back in. If that doesn't work, because that helps to reset the TV, the next thing you can do is turn on the TV and then get a very bright light and see. You'll need to be really quick on this. You hold the light up against the TV as you turn it on, and if you see the insignia or the words of the TV, like for example, if I saw the word Sharp come up right when I turned it on, I would know that this TV backlights are out. So I'm going to show you how to do that today. It's hard to show on video, but that's essentially what I've diagnosed it to when I tried turning on the TV. You can see very, very barely with a bright light the word Sharp across the screen, but you have to have something very bright. So if that's the issue, I'm going to show you some tips on how to fix that. So if you come to the back of your TV, you can see here, this is a Sharp LED LCD TV. Here's the model number so that you can find the replacement LEDs. Let's get started. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do here, I'm going to do this video backwards. So I'm going to start by showing you what the problem is and how to work back from changing out the strips all the way to putting it back together. So it's going to be a little bit different, but there's plenty of videos here on YouTube that show you how to take the TV apart. So if you want to either look for those or if you want to just kind of follow these steps in reverse order, I'll make sure to give you everything you need to know to get taken care of. So now that we have the TV off here, or excuse me, the screen off, the first thing we're going to want to do is take off all this adhesive sticky tape. And what I'm probably going to try and do is try and save it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and pull off the end and then kind of roll it back so that I can get to the access to all these strips, take those off, and then we'll be good to get those new strips on. Alright, so we're here at the other side of the TV from the last frame, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove these connectors that power the strips. So all you need to do is pull up on the front half of the clip and then wiggle out like that. Okay, so I'll just do that to all of these. You'll see if you look closely at them, it's pretty easy to get them off. And with that said, you can test these strips to see which one individually is bad, or sometimes, you can even check at the light level which one of the individual LEDs is bad. But honestly, I bought a kit online and it was for all of them. And I don't have an LED tester. They're pretty cheap, but I was just wanting to show you how to do this repair in case you want to take care of all of it, the whole set of strips. So now that we have those all disconnected, now we can remove the adhesive tape and get access to the strips. And of course, whenever you get to a wire, just hold the wire down on both sides so you don't damage it. If you were going to reuse some of these strips, obviously you want to take care when you remove the tape, but I'm planning on just taking all these out. So now that we have access to all these strips, the next thing I want to show you, so let's say you want to test to see which individual LED is bad. What you would do is take your LED tester, let me see here if I can get it to show up, and you'd come toward the end of these strips. I don't know if this will come up here, but as you can see, right there, positive, negative. So you would just attach your leads of the LED tester on there. Sometimes you have to scratch off the protective coating and film that's on top of these, but you just put on your tester here and here, and then this would light up. If it's working, if it's not, then you know which individual strip is bad. So again, you can see that on that one. And yeah, so if you wanted to test the individual strips, that's how you do it. But in this case, I'm just gonna remove all of them. Alright, so let me show you a trick. The ones on the bottom half of the chassis were a lot easier, obviously, because there's a lot more indentations to put your hands under. Here, it's a pain in the butt to get these LED strips off. So let me show you what I did here. So essentially, all you need to do is get something like a glass scraper, something like that. One of these scrapers. Love these things, because watch this. A screwdriver could work to some extent, but let me see if I can show it this way. Magnifico. Look at that. Then you just pull her up. And we're gone. Alright, just like that, we're ready to put in our LED strips. Alright, so as you saw, there's 5 total strips we need to replace. And the cool thing is the kit that I bought, they sent the strips in halves, which is nice for shipping purposes so that these don't get bent. And essentially you just connect them together. So obviously we can see here, that's the side that will go into our electrical connector here. And then on the other side of the same strip, you can see here, there's a connection end that will just fit this. So I'll just put these two together, maybe like that, and bada boom, we have a full LED strip that we can put on here. All right. Nice thing is we can use the old glue stains as kind of a indication of how to level this back up to where it was before to some extent. And the next thing we'll want to do, since that glue adhesive on the back is no longer really there and sticky, you can just honestly throw some packing tape or some sort of tape on there just to hold it in place. So I'm gonna go grab some so I can do that. All right, so instead of showing you all of this, basically I'm gonna be doing the same exact thing going down here row by row. With that said, as you can see, I just put some Scotch tape on there, fair amount down the rows, and then honestly too, you're gonna have the black tape that's gonna lay on top of it too. So just make sure you get some tape on there that will secure it so that it won't go anywhere. And then the next thing we'll do here on this one is attach the electrical connector for the LED strip. So it's as simple as plug it in to hear it click, and just like that, 1 row down, 4 more to go. Actually, hold the phone. I completely just realized that the back of these LED strips, there's some tape that you can remove so that the back is now adhesive. So let me do that. So I guess that tip was in case yours doesn't have a adhesive tip on the strip on the back. You can use some tape. That will hold it just fine. I still might put some tape on there, honestly, because double insurance, but man, glad I found that. Biggest thing here when you put these on, make sure the connection here is nice and good, and then make sure you have the one side that actually has the connector facing the right side, or else that's not going to be fun to have to take this off again. And I'll just line it up with the glue. And honestly, you could even outline the old strips before you take them off, so you can make sure that the same ones go in, I guess, quote unquote level. But if you you can still see the adhesive, the old black adhesive. I think that makes a perfect template. Now, all the LEDs are in, so I'm just going to add a secondary layer of insurance. Just going to put one piece of tape on each end and the middles, just so nothing gets discombobulated or loose. We can start putting the adhesive tape back on, and also these connectors. So I'm going to work on the connectors first. Listen for that very satisfying click. Perfect. Now I'll put on the tape. And I can see where the old tape was before, so honestly I'm just gonna kind of put it in the same place. Alright, so we're at a point where we have all of the new LED strips in. And again, with this, you can test the individual strips to see which one's bad, just so you're not replacing all of them. But you would need an LED tester to do that. Or if you want, there's actually a cool hack that I can tell you about that I think would work. So if you think about these LED bulbs have about 3 volts to them. So if you count on a strip 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So 10 times 3 would be about 30 volts. So what you could do is you could put 3 9-volt batteries in sequence. Obviously, if your TV is bigger and has more LEDs, this would not work. But essentially, you could put the batteries in sequence. Maybe I'll draw you a little diagram. Okay, let's see here. So what you could do is you could actually, I guess, create your own LED tester by essentially doing something like this. So you have one 9-volt battery, another 9-volt battery upside down, and the other 9-volt battery here. So 9, 18, 27. So you'd have 27 volts. You'd have a positive and a negative lead, and then you could just put those 2 wires onto the contact points that I showed you here that are next to the wire here, and you could actually test the line that way. Again, if it's bigger or smaller, this might not work, but just a cool hack that could work for you in case you want to build your own tester. So with that said, let's keep this repair going. So now what we're going to do is we're going to put back on the white paper screen here, and that will be next. Okay, so now what you'll want to do is you want to get your white paper screen, and place it back on. And the biggest thing with this, when you take this off, I'll put it on first so that you can see. And it only goes one way, so it's pretty easy to tell. You just lay that on somewhat easily here. And this will help that when the LEDs project their light, you have a white screen. Now, if you rip this, there's going to be a big, black, gash or hole or whatever in your screen. So if you do rip this by chance, honestly, you could just put some white paper over the hole to cover it up, because you will see any tears. The biggest thing, and this is why it's important to line up these LEDs when you put them back in, to some extent, is because you want obviously the LEDs to project through this white paper. So if it's off, there's some flexibility, but you don't want to be too off that this doesn't show through. This upside down. Yeah, because you can see here some of the rip marks. And it does matter because you want I'll show you here. Essentially what we're trying to do, if I can zoom in here, see these little black prongs? Those line up with the holes on the top of the white screen. So you do want to make sure you put it in right, and that you make sure that the LED is going back somewhat straight. And already that worked a lot better. And once you get this in place, and you have those little black tabs sticking out throughout the white screen, the next thing you want to do is, of course, go all the way down, make sure it's flat, make sure the LEDs still poke through. As you can see here, could have been a little bit better, but they all project through. It's not like one is completely offset and being hidden underneath the white screen. So now what you can do is just kind of push it down back onto that sticky adhesive. Now when you're taking off the adhesive, I know it can be a little bit of a pain. And like I said, when you take this apart, you don't want to rip this. So what I did is, I come over to one of the corners here. It makes it nice and accessible. And pull up and try and fit as much as your hand underneath as you pull up so that you don't rip this. As you can see, I was able to take it apart here. So just my advice is be gentle when you're taking this apart. It should come out intact. Just, more surface area that you are touching and trying to remove, the less likely it'll rip. So just be careful when you take it off, but just know that there is that sticky black adhesive that I showed you holding this whole thing down. So now, of course, we want to help it stick back. So we'll just move our hands all over here. And of course, obviously make sure that all these wires we put in are connected, because that would not be fun if you had to come back and do that after you put it all back together. And now with that, we can put on the support brackets for the screen. All right, and so these look like this. As you can see, there's two little feet on the bottom. So essentially what we do, I'll show you right here. You can see there's a spot right here. You push it down and then to the left. And that'll lock it in place. Oh, let me see here. Yeah, there we go. So when you take it out, pull it up a little bit and then take it to the left and it will come out. When you put it back in, you'll push it, get both feet in, and then push to the right. And there you go. So I'll just do this with the rest of them. You can easily see here where they are. This also holds that white diffusion screen over or down to the chassis. That way it doesn't pop off. So these serve two functions. That's it. So as you can see here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So get those in place, or take those off by either pulling up slightly and then putting to the left, take them out, and putting them back in, again pushing down, putting to the right. All right. I'll just do one final comb over just to make sure LEDs are popping through. Good, good, good. And now we can move on to what's next. So, screen supports are in, and now the next thing we'll want to do is to put in the diffusion screens, those diffuser screens. And I will show you how to put them in. These just you pull out, so there's nothing crazy for taking them out. Basically, there's two thicker ones. Put those in. Okay, now once we get those in, we can do the two more, the thin one. There's two of them. The camera does not like that. Alright, so just bear with me. And the next thing we're putting on is the more pliable one, and that one also has holes in the top side for where it goes in the top half of the TV, and then they also have, let's see here, yeah, make sure those line up. So as you can see here, I'll try and show you. Again, that's how you can keep things kind of at the same place when it comes to the TV, is these little black nubs on the top half of the TV, and the diffusion screens, those have holes in them specifically for those. So just keep an eye out for those so that you keep everything on the same side. It's not the end of the world if you don't, but that's how you can keep everything right side up. So now that we got all those in, let's work on the next thing. All right, so we have the diffusing screen here, the diffuser screen in. So again, on the top half of the TV, you see those little notches all throughout that you can use to keep things right side up. On the bottom, this is what it looks like. So with that said, again, the more pliable, the two pliable screens are on top, the more rigid ones are on the bottom. And you can honestly just take all four of those out and keep them together so you don't have to worry about the order in which they go. But now we can put the screen back on. These little black side brackets just attach to literally the sides of the screen here. So they just go around the perimeter. Just kind of get them in place. And they do kind of overlap each other. So there technically is a right way they go in, but honestly you have a 50-50 shot of getting it right. And if you keep them in the same place or keep them laid out, you can get them back where they go. Basically what we're looking for here, let me show you. So again, and I have this on a blanket, I'll talk about that later. But essentially here what we're trying to do is just have these, so as you can see, there's little tabs on them. These tabs just go over the chassis of the TV and they overlap. So as you can see here, this goes like this. Let's see, yeah, these two go like that. So they meet nicely here. And then literally you just put it in and go around the TV. Make sure that's in. But it is that simple. So let me show you here what I got. So again, we'll just push it over. Make sure I have the next corner ready. And essentially that's it. So literally when you take this off, what you'll do is you'll just come look for these tabs and you'll put your finger underneath and loosen them up, and that is it. So now I'm just going to go around the whole screen here and get those in. Again, so this is what we're looking for. That black piece overlapping here with the tabs. Looks good all around. That's it. So you just want to make make sure all four sides have those in place. And next, most important part is getting the screen back on. Now you can get those little suction cup things so that you can hold the screen all by yourself. I would say you don't want to crack the screen. That's the biggest thing. Get some help if you need. That's the biggest thing. So when you put this back, you just want to make sure you don't crack the screen. Alright, so I got the screen in. Essentially the biggest thing when you take it on or off, really the bigger it is, the harder it is to handle, and if it flexes at all, it'll likely crack and then you're out of screen. So be very, very careful when you take this on or off. Get help. Try not to have it flex in the middle or else it will crack. And basically what's going to happen is when you take it out, it's going to just sit on that black piece that I was showing you how to insert before. So literally you'll just be able to put your suction cups on here and take it off. Biggest thing here too also, in addition to protecting the screen, is protecting this driver board. If these ribbons here get crinkled, cracked, destroyed, ripped, then that's another issue you're going to have to deal with, that you're going to have to fix those, and that's going to mess up your screen. So don't, be very ginger with these. I know that you can, if you want, do this when you take it off and put a piece of tape so that it doesn't, bend or crinkle. But just be very careful with those driver boards. Now with that said, you can move on to the next step. All right, next step is to put back on the trim piece or the bezel. holds the screen to the chassis here. Obviously you want to make sure the insignia or the brand goes on the right side. So in this case the bottom, and obviously the bottom is this side. So just double check, or else you'll have to take this off again. And it just snaps in place. So it's easy to put back on. When you take it off, it is a little bit more of a pain in the butt because you have to try and wedge something underneath the screen or between the bezel and the screen and pop it up. I found that a screwdriver was extremely helpful for doing that. Obviously, slow and steady wins the race because you don't want to, break this bezel, but I actually found it to be pretty robust. So just go slow when you put it back on, and then that's it. All right, so now that we have this in place, now we can screw on the lower half of the screen here. There's, I think, 8 small little screws, Phillips head screws, so we can do that next. All right, so now we have we're looking at underneath the TV, so where it said sharp before, as you can see there's these holes here, here, and so forth, that we take these small little Phillips screws in. And might need to play with this back and forth, but we just want to screw that bezel in. Good. All right, so now I put the TV on a blanketed surface because now we're going to be mostly working on the back half. So what we're going to do, so remember this is our driver board here. What we want to do is put it back in these little clips, and you can just pull those up. I'll start from the outside and work my way in. There we go. And that gets the driver board in. I'll do it on the other side since it's the same exact process. That just holds it in place. Okay. All right, so now that we have the driver board clipped back in, now the next thing we'll want to do is we'll want to attach the conductive tape that's on both ends. So as you can see here, when you take this off, it might just look like tape, but really it's actually conductive. And you can see there's that little box here where it goes into, so you'll just want to stick that back on. When you take it off, just be careful. But that's it. Just want to put that back on. And I'll do the other side here and the other half of the driver board. As you can see right there, those two. You just don't want it to go down too far on that board because again, it is conductive. All right, so now we have that installed. Let me get some more light over here. So now we actually want to connect the driver board here. So let me help you see what I'm working on here. So here's the driver board, and here are the ribbons that go here from the driver board to the other circuit board here. So all you do to connect these is pull that little black thing back. I don't know if you can see that. It swings open like a gate. Push that in. You'll just want to get that back down in there. Make sure it seats evenly. And then, as you can see, the black part covers the arrow. So maybe I can show you better on this one. So as you can see, on the ribbon there's an arrow. the tip of that arrow gets covered by that connector. So we'll try and again open that connector up, make sure it goes in level, which that black line is really helpful to have, so that tells you that. Looks pretty good to me. So now we have both driver boards installed here. So next thing we'll want to do is reconnect the leg mounts that go on the TV. So let me go grab those. The nice thing is they are marked. So maybe I'll do the left side here first. So if we come over here to this side of the TV, when you take it off, you will see something that looks like this. And this is one of the mounts. And as you can see on the inside, right there, you can see, let's see if I can get it to show you better. There's an L for left. So we'll just put that back in here. This is what connects the TV to the legs. And then I'm going to make sure this little Wi-Fi module wire, that's what this box is, doesn't get pinched under that box. So I'm just going to, before I tighten it down all the way, make sure it's out of the way. And I'll do the same exact thing to the other side. You get the point. Let's resecure the power switch. So again, when you take off this, you'll see this wire running through the right leg mount, like something like that. And I'll just weave it back through. This is the power button. So what you want to do to get that disconnected or to get reconnected here, you can see it just literally slips in like so. That's it. So now that's in, and then you can just obviously take that out from here when you're ready to disconnect it. So now that we have the TV power button in, next thing we'll connect is the speakers. So let me go find those. All right, so you see these divots here? This is where the speakers go. So literally just push connects into those. And then when you take them out, obviously you just literally lift up. And then we connect this speaker wire to the main board here. So I'll show you that. So this one, as with most connectors, you just pull on the top half here. You can see here that opens up. And then listen for the click. And now we have that installed. Now that our speaker is back in and connected to the main board, let's push this Wi-Fi module cable back in here. So those just slip in to the speakers, these little notches here. Like that. So as you can see, that's the speaker, or excuse me, the Wi-Fi module that connects to the box all the way over here. So there's that. All right, then you'll likely see this connected here. This ribbon goes from the low voltage differential signal cable. So that's what this is. This low voltage differential signal cable. This will go from your main board here to this timing control board. So with that said, if you see that, I don't necessarily see that you have to disconnect it, but with that one, you just push it back in. So to give you a closer idea, again, timing control board, main control board. So if you want to disconnect this in case you need to, that you just squeeze the 2 tabs here and lift up. But then you just put that low voltage differential cable back in to the timing control board. And now let's see here what we have to put back. I'm trying to look around me to see what parts are left. So honestly, we're almost done. Now we're kind of at the point of where you'd likely be starting. So let me give you an idea of how to diagnose this problem. All right, so now this is the power supply control board. It's easy to tell because the power supply goes into it. And essentially, power feeds in from your outlet to here, goes through the board, and then it then travels to this one wire right here. That, as you can see, is the only wire that goes through the chassis into the LEDs. So that's why this design is unfortunate and also cheap, because if there's one bad LED or strip, this whole TV won't power on because there's only one connection. So what you would want to do before you decide to test the LEDs, you'd actually want to remove this cable here. So again, like all of them, just push down on the top and wiggle it out. Okay, so what you would want to do before you assume that the LEDs are bad, put your multimeter here and test the prongs. And I'll show you those here. So again, here's the power supply board. Here's the one wire that feeds the LEDs. If you can see in there, those 2 prongs, you want to put your multimeter on to see if there's power coming out of there. If there is, then you can definitely move on to trying to figure out which LEDs are bad. If there's not, then there's something wrong with this board, that it's not sending power to that. So check there first before you get too crazy down the road with this project. With that said, obviously you'd need this plugged in and the TV on when you check the voltage, but that's what you'd be looking for. All right, so the last step, which would be your first step, would be just putting on this back panel here. So it just easily slides on. Sometimes there is a wire connecting something on the back here to the TV, the boards in the TV. So just make sure before you yank it off, there's no wires. But in this specific Sharp model, there's not. And all you do now is put in all the screws. They're all the same size, so I'm going to take care of that now. Starting with the left side. And before you get too down the road, you might as well check these. Might as well try and turn the TV on now. Just get a couple of these screws in around the back. That way you can test it before you close everything up. All right, now we just put the legs in and we can be set with this repair. So the nice thing about these legs is it tells you on the bottom, right side, and it also tells you on the legs, right side. So we just line that up. And that's how you do it. That's how you change the backlight in a Sharp TV. Hope the video was helpful. If it was, give it a like. Feel free to share with others, and I'll catch you in the next one.